I'm Jeremiah Jensen, live in Houston at the Toyota Center. The NBA playoffs are underway. Game 1 between the Jazz and Rockets is in the books. It did not go well for the Utah Jazz. We'll break down why it didn't go well and what they can do to improve in Game 2. And guess what? Tiger is back. We'll show you that and more coming up on SportsBeat right now.
You're watching SportsBeat.
Thank you, JJ. Playoff mode activated. Welcome to SportsBeat Sunday, everyone. I'm Spencer Linton. Again, Jeremiah Jensen will join us live from Houston with Jazz Rockets Game 1 reaction in just a moment. A loaded show tonight, headlined by, of course, the NBA playoffs. Tiger is officially back, a spring college football recap, and a rising NFL draft prospect right over here in studio. But first, game number 83 for the Utah Jazz. Team is everything. And the team is now in the first round of the Western Conference playoffs. Here we go. Game 1 highlights and storylines begin with the NBA's leading scorer, and leading beard for that matter, James Harden. Utah had little answer for Harden. Such is the case with basically every team that tries to defend the guy. 29 points, 10 assists, 8 rebounds for the NBA MVP candidate. The Rockets led 59-44 at the half. Also contributing to Jazz frustration, Houston's Clint Capella. Utah, you have a problem. A dunk fest for Capella and the Rockets in the first 20 minutes. The Jazz turned the ball over 9 times in the first half as well, aiding Houston's above-the-rim offensive surge. Ah, yes, the Rockets shoot a ton of threes as well, so naturally the Jazz will need to do their part from distance. But that, too, not in Utah's favor. The Jazz finished 7 for 27, 26% from 3. I have that as less than optimal. Okay, at this point, Jazz fans have had it with this game. Too much Harden, can't make a 3, and our stars player shoes are falling off. Yes, it's true. Donovan Mitchell lost the wheel. Sigh. We continue on. Now, I mentioned Utah's 9 turnovers in the first half. They turned the ball over 18 times total, leading to 24 Houston points. I can promise you protecting the ball in Game 2 is a first-line priority for Jazz coach Quinn Snyder moving forward. How about something, anything positive for the Jazz tonight? That likely begins and ends with the Utah Jazz big men on offense. Rudy Gobert and Derek Favors combined for 35 points on 13 of 18 shooting. Gobert finished with 22 of those points and 12 rebounds all by his lonesome. To Utah's credit, after trailing by 15 at the break, they cut the Houston lead to 5. But that's as close as the Jazz would get. All Houston after that. Game 1 goes to the Rockets. 122-90. 32-point loss for Utah. Your final score. Jeremiah Jensen joins us live in Houston following game number 1. JJ, I think my first question is, what's the collective message from the Jazz following tonight's yikes result?
I think it was pretty simple from Quinn Snyder after the game. We have to be better. Can you put it any better than that? I think it's pretty simple, right? The Jazz just weren't very good tonight, and the Houston Rockets sent a message tonight that they are. And so the Jazz are going to have to respond. Now, Spencer, I'll go positive for you here early on. Last year, remember, the Jazz came down here off 36 hours of rest, and they got crushed in Game 1, only to bounce back with 2 days rest in Game 2. And made adjustments, and they won down here in Houston. Obviously, last year's series didn't end very well for Utah, but at least they can take some confidence in the fact that they did this last year and were able to bounce back and make some adjustments. Now, as for tonight, why did things not go well? Well, James Harden. Now, it wasn't James Harden going off for 47 points. It was James Harden making his team better offensively through his assists, through his playmaking. The Jazz tried to hedge him right and tried to defend him a certain way. It was not effective. It did not work. It opened things up for him. It had the opposite effect to him. So he was tossing lobs to guys, hitting guys wide open in the corner. And it's something the Jazz are going to have to adjust to and not allow James Harden to get everybody else involved. 7 players on the Rockets in double figures tonight. That's got to change in Game 2.
To be honest with you, it's not that we improved. Probably we've seen it a little bit more often now, and James just adjusts to it. It's like he does with everything. They throw something at him. It might get him a little bit, and then he just figures it out, and they don't get him on it anymore. And that's why he's so good offensively. I mean, it makes me smile. It makes me laugh. I mean, he's just so good. I don't know what you do. No, he could have a bad game, and they'll contribute to something. No, it's sometimes humans have bad games, and you're not stopping him. I don't care what you do.
We didn't play well, so I guess that's what I'm trying to say. There's some things that a lot of things we need to do better, and one of them is how we protect the room. I think Rudy can and will be better, but it wasn't just Rudy. And we've got to make better decisions. When they do collapse, do a better job of finding each other. But there are some things that we wanted to do that we didn't execute. Regardless of what we're doing, our execution just has to be better. But there's times we're not in the half court, and and we're not capitalizing on getting stops, and then when we do get into half court, as I said, we've got we're not always going to be able to move the ball the way we want and play side to side, but I guess more than anything, there's just got to be more determination.
Gobert kind of laughed and said, "You guys speak French to each other when y'all are playing during games, and then when y'all are doing that, he tries to intimidate you."
You said that?
He did. Did he? What does he do?
That's not true. Not really. He tries. Sometimes he try to say stuff, but today I kind of talked to him first, and I got him mad. I got him kind of mad today, and but it's kind of a game that we always been playing since we were back in France. So there's like a rivalry that we like to have.
No, I'm not surprised at anything. I've seen literally every defense you can possibly see. So it's just a matter of adjusting and, continue to communicate with the guys and, what spots they need to be in, and that's pretty much it. I mean, yeah, and I don't mean to bring up last year, but we played pretty well in Game 1 last year. In Game 2, they came in and beat us. So just trying to keep the guys, Chris was, mentioned a few times after Coach brought it in that, it's only one game, and they're going to make adjustments, and we have to make adjustments, and we have to play that much harder and smarter.
James Harden showed us once again tonight why he's one of the greatest offensive players in NBA history, almost a triple-double. Coming up later on in SportsBeat, we'll break this down, go more in depth. The Rockets' defense was actually a major story in this game. We'll touch on that, and I'll also talk about some of the things that the Jazz need to do in Game 2 in order to get this thing turned around and get a win and go back to Salt Lake City with an even series. Until then, Spencer, I'll send it back to you from Houston.
All right, JJ, thank you. Fantastic work thus far. More from Houston in a few minutes. The other Western Conference matchup today, Oklahoma City at Portland, Game 1. OKC's two superstars did their thing. 50 combined points from Russell Westbrook and Paul George. But it's Portland's big two outplaying their counterparts. I'll see that 50 and raise you 54 points from C.J. McCollum and Weber State legend Damian Lillard. Dame time with that huge three late puts the game away. Portland keeping it weird. Take the series opener 104-99. Let's move east. 4-5 series. The Indiana Pacers at Boston in their first round opener. Third quarter, Celtics down 3. I spy Al Horford spinning and winning. Made a free throw tie game. Kyrie Irving, flat earth that. Irving scores 20. Then Marcus Morris. You bet. Celtics outscored the Pacers 26-8 in the third quarter. Into the fourth, Boston's Jason Tatum winning. The Celtics take Game 1 over the Pacers 84-74. Keep it in the East. 8 seed Detroit, heavy underdogs at top seed Milwaukee. Blake Griffin did not play for Detroit, but I don't think Blake would have changed much. All Bucks up 20 after the first quarter. Milwaukee also has this guy, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Good grief. Basically from the free throw line, 24 points, including that. Bucks in a blowout. They lead the series 1-0. BYU men's basketball now. They have a new man in charge. The Mark Pope era underway. The former Utah Valley University head coach led the Wolverines to a program-best 25 wins last season, and now he's looking to revamp a BYU program that has missed the NCAA tournament 4 seasons in a row.
This place is like nowhere else. It is a beacon on a hill, and it is such an honor and a privilege to have the opportunity to be the head men's basketball coach here at Brigham Young University, and I couldn't be more proud or more excited. There is a standard of excellence here in everything that happens on this campus. And certainly there's a standard of excellence that's been set with this basketball program and incredibly high expectations. This kind of whirlwind for me the last few weeks, there's been a lot of conversation and a lot of jobs out there. And it came into very specific relief for me several days ago when I actually, a thought crossed my mind that I had used as a recruiting pitch here at BYU. And it was this, and it just came to me in a moment. It was like, of all these places, where do you want to win the most? Where can you go win and it will mean the most on every level? And there's no doubt in my mind that it is here. And that's why I'm here. I think that's why we're here, is because this is a special place to come win and win big. It's like nowhere else. And that's the challenge before us. The only thing that made this a hard decision for me a little bit was there was one thing that made it hard, and that was my locker room. My locker room down the street, where I had the incredible privilege of working with those fine young men that are chasing their dreams. And when you work with a team, you form a bond that supersedes everything else. And those guys came there and they trusted us, and what they've accomplished over the last several years has been truly extraordinary. We will be wholehearted. It's an important word. We will be wholehearted in everything we do. We will be relentless every minute, every day, 24/7, chasing excellence on this team, relentless, and we will be together. And in all those ways, it will be our goal to represent this university and this community in a way that all of us are going to be extraordinarily proud of. And my deal is, think about what you think we can't do as a program. Think about it, let me know, and that's what we're going to go do. That's what we're going to get done.
The best of luck to Mark Pope as he takes over at BYU. It didn't take long for the Wolverines to find a replacement for Coach Pope, replacing one Mark with another. Mark Madsen, after a lengthy assistant coach stint with the LA Lakers, named the new head man at Utah Valley. Now, if you don't know much about him, his wealth of NBA experience extends back 6 years with LA in the coaching field to 2013. Madsen also spent a season at Stanford and has head coaching experience at the NBA G League level for the Los Angeles Defenders. The coaching carousel just getting ramped up. And we're just getting started with our Jazz playoff coverage, plus NFL dreams alive for a former BYU star.
When you think about the whole picture, you want to be drafted, you want to go as high as you can, so I feel like that kind of keeps you motivated.
Sione Takitaki, former BYU linebacker and NFL prospect, in studio to talk about his future and what motivates him. JJ?
The Houston Rockets go off for 122 points in Game 1, but it was their defense that was the key to victory. I'll explain that, and I'll also go in depth on what the Jazz need to do to get a win in Game 2. More coverage from Houston of the Jazz-Rockets playoff series coming up next.
You're watching SportsBeat.
Welcome back to SportsBeat Sunday. The Utah Jazz dropped Game 1 of their Western Conference first-round NBA playoff series 122-90. Yikes, 32-point loss. We take our coverage back to Houston and once again join Jeremiah Jensen. Jeremiah, I think it all starts with, how does Utah defend James Harden moving forward?
Well, Spencer, no one in the league has figured out how to defend James Harden, but you certainly have to try some things, and you have to try your best. Now, the Jazz tried to do something tonight that the Milwaukee Bucks tried against the Rockets and had some success with. If you notice watching the game, they try to hedge James Harden and force him to go right, and then hope that he doesn't, make a bucket, kind of funnel him into Rudy Gobert. And what that does is it forces him to get rid of the ball, or he ends up, getting the shot blocked at the rim. And so when you have Giannis with the Bucks, it's easy to do, and the Jazz thought maybe with Gobert it would work. Well, too many guys were open in the corner, and James Harden was able to take advantage of it. The Jazz also, I think, struggled to execute this properly. Harden adjusted. He found teammates for lobs and open corner threes. I don't think that's going to work in Game 2, and I think they'll find a better way. I thought they did a better job of that in the second half. All right, another thing. Donovan Mitchell has to play better. Now, he shot the ball well tonight, 8 of 17 from the field. He was 3 of 7 from 3. He had 19 points, but he wasn't forceful enough in this game. If he's the Jazz best offensive player, he's got to have more of an impact in this game to somewhat match what James Harden's doing for the Houston Rockets. How can he do that? Better decisions in the lane. He's got to be able to do better decisions, make better decisions with his shot. Also, driving in the lane, he had a lot of trouble with that in this game. And I'll also say the Rockets defense was outstanding in that. You're going to point to the offense quite a bit with the Rockets, but you got to give them credit for being great defensively. Joe Ingles had just 4 shots. They did a great job on the perimeter, limiting open looks for the Jazz, and the Jazz struggled to deal with that. So the Jazz have got to find a way to attack that Rockets defense, be more forceful, take the game to them, and they can find their way to a victory in game 2. It won't be easy. This Rockets team is very good. And you probably went away tonight thinking, man, what are the Jazz going to do? These Rockets look unbeatable. Well, remember, being positive last year, the Jazz adjusted and found a way to steal game 2 here in Houston. We'll see if they can do it again, Spencer. Back to you.
All right, JJ, and just to point out, Jeremiah is still undefeated in his suit game, so at least we've got that going for KSL Sports as well. On to spring football, wrapping up for the Utah Utes with their red and white game yesterday. Coin toss? Nah, circle drill to decide who receives first, and Hua'uati Pututau wins for the red team. Now, Tyler Huntley played in the first half. He was 8 of 9 for 158 yards and hooked up with Brian Thompson. Really perfection. The longest play in the spring game. It set up Huntley for that 6-yard touchdown run. He looks good in Andy Ludwig's offense, that is for sure. The Utes need Jason Shelley to be ready this fall like he was last season. Had the best play of the spring game, throwing across the field to Derek Vickers, a 19-yard touchdown dime. Shelley 7 of 10, 87 yards. Transfer quarterback Cam Rising also threw a touchdown to Solomon Ennis. 8 of 10 for 77 yards once again. The play of the game on defense came at the very end. Desert Hills graduate Nephi Sewell, transfer from Nevada, picks out the pass to clinch the victory for the red team, who won 21-14.
Yeah, there was some good things. Offense executed well. Now it was a really watered-down version of the offense, very vanilla, so it didn't have a lot that we showed. But I thought the execution was clean for the most part. Did a pretty good job taking care of the football. Obviously, the defense was very watered down as well and very simplistic. But what that does is gives the young guys a chance to not worry about thinking, just go out and play. And you know, saw some guys step up and make plays, and that's what we wanted to see.
What about Utah State football coming off a fantastic season, wrapping up spring ball? Jordan Love didn't see a ton of action, but outstanding in the reps he did have. 2 touchdown passes, one to Savon Scarver and an 11-yard score. He also threw a touchdown to redshirt freshman Sam Lockett from 12 yards out. Gerald Bright, TD, solid celebration as well, pretending to be Jordan Love. Utah State, they won because it's a spring game. They always win. 38-14, the final, if you want to call it a final. Joined now with BYU linebacker, I guess I should call you former BYU linebacker, Sione Takitaki, as he prepares for the adventure that is the NFL draft. Sione, I know you've got a number of visits planned. You've already been on a few, those scheduled. Mentally, how do you handle all of this, knowing that you're going to go back and forth across the country? And after all these interviews, you might not even end up with one of those teams.
Yeah. Yeah, mentally, it's kind of draining. You know, you doing all these interviews, doing all the meeting teams, doing all that stuff. But I feel like when you think about the whole picture and you want to be drafted, you want to go as high as you can. So I feel like that kind of keeps you motivated and keeps you, you know, mentally sharp and keeps you aware of a lot of things.
What's the best bit of advice you've received from former teammates that are now in the league that have gone through all of this?
Yeah, they just keep telling me stay in shape, you know. You're doing all the visits, you're doing all this fluff stuff, that's what they call it. But make sure that you're staying up on your conditioning, your lifting, because once draft day comes, you know, a couple days later you'll be flying out and they expect you to perform at a high level.
A lot of teams like you at that inside linebacker position. Fred Warner made that recent transition from the outside to inside and obviously flourished for the San Francisco 49ers. How do you feel about making that transition?
Yeah, I feel comfortable, you know. I feel like that's kind of where I'm naturally supposed to be, you know. Just size and everything, you know, all the ability I could do there. So I feel comfortable, you know, definitely covering guys, coming downhill, playing the run. And, yeah, I feel like even, you know, the pass rush stuff has helped me. Just my whole role at BYU that I've done kind of just helped this whole, you know, this whole process.
You played on the defensive line at BYU. You played linebacker. You were shuttled all around. And I know you've said that that has given you an advantage because you understand a lot of these defensive positions. But where do you feel like you would flourish most in the NFL if given the opportunity to play the position that you want to play?
Either Mike or Will. It just depends on the certain scheme. But I think stacked linebacker behind the defensive line, you know, either Mike or Will is definitely probably where I'll flourish the most. But I feel like you said, you know, the pass rush, all that stuff, you know, blitzing off the edge and blitzing from inside definitely helped me out. And I feel like a lot of teams have seen, you know, what I could do at all these other positions when I was playing DN and stuff. So it's all helped. But, yeah, like I said, you know, stacked middle linebacker or Will backer or even Sam will, you know, I'll flourish most of that.
You've been on this meteoric rise, and I know you and your camp and your BYU coaches believed that you had NFL talent and have had NFL talent for a long time, but now it seems like everybody's really starting to get on board between the advancements in the different Senior Bowl games as you moved up to eventually the Reese's Senior Bowl and you got put on that last minute. And now you're moving up all these draft boards. How do you handle all of the increased attention?
It's definitely exciting, you know, because you know you can play some ball. Like you said, everybody's believed in you, my wife, my family, everybody knew that I could play some ball. Finally getting some attention, I feel like, you know, the sky and I never lies, you know, so I'm happy to be in this position. I knew it was always come, you know. I could just keep my nose down, keep grinding. I knew this opportunity would come, and it's finally here. Yeah, I'm loving it up, to be honest. You know, all this fluff, you know, you definitely don't want to, you know, embrace it too much, but you definitely got to celebrate all the wins and keep it moving, you know, got bigger goals, so.
I know your wife, Alyssa, is obviously your biggest fan, and she's been a huge part of this support crew. What does she do for you to kind of keep you grounded and kind of focused and on pace through all of this madness?
Yeah, definitely home is somewhere where you want to make sure that everything's great, so. Yeah, she's been yeah, the person, you know, steering the wheel back at home, making sure I'm good, keeping me fed, you know, keeping my tummy full, making sure that I'm eating the right things, scratching my head when I, you know, doing all the little stuff. But yeah, she's been a big help to this whole process, you know, kind of just everything, you know, at home, make sure I'm nutritioned right, you know, meetings sometimes, you know, she makes sure that, you know, my schedule is right. Reminds me of things. So, yeah, she's definitely helping out as much as she can.
As you prepare for draft day, what do you anticipate that day will be like for you?
I think I'd be a steal. I think people are expecting these things, and I think I'll go sooner than a lot of people think. But, yeah, I feel like it'll be a great day, you know, for whatever team, you know, takes me. It'll be a big journey. To get to that stage, it'll be a relief, but I know that's just a start, and I'm going to have to tighten up and get things going.
Let's dive through that a little bit more. If you were to make your pitch to all 32 teams right now about the player that they're going to get from Sione Takitaki, what would that self-promotion include?
They're going to get a football player, you know, somebody that loves this thing, you know, putting in the work, lifting, running, the weight room, down to you know, the little stuff, you know, playing in my hands. I'm going to get a physical player, somebody that's to play banged up, you know, a healthy person that's ready to go, you know, whether it be special teams, you know, defense, getting in there, getting the role right away. They're going to get a football player. And they're also going to get a guy that's good off the field, too, you know. Definitely handle my business. And yeah, I'm a locker room guy. You know, I definitely, you know, I definitely get along with all walks of life and everybody, you know, blue collar down to, you know, all the other guys. But, yeah, you know, that's exactly what they're going to get.
Now, obviously, with your talent, when you left BYU for a little bit and you came back, I'm sure you were a hot commodity for a lot of teams. They would have said, hey, I'll take him and play him right now. Why was BYU the place for you to stick it out with, and why did you want to stay in Provo?
Yeah, yeah, going through that time, I definitely looked at some schools, but BYU's always been the place. You know, I was married at the time, so I'm like, you know, this is the perfect place for us, you know, to stay here. And then I just wanted to rewrite, you know, all my wrongs. You know, definitely you know, had a bumpy road, and so I want to, like, you know what, I can come back and I can finish strong. You know, I want to make sure that, you know, my name's not rubbed through dirt, and I want to make sure to clean that up and leave BYU, you know, in great hands. Yeah, that's kind of why I stuck it out and came back.
Sione, it's been fun to watch your path and your growth, and we wish you the best of luck moving forward to the NFL draft. Thanks for coming by, man.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
You got it. SportsBeat Sunday rolls on. The Utah Jazz have faced the Rockets in the playoffs more than any other team. Again, game one tonight, making it now a 9th postseason series meeting. With that much history, we thought it would be a lot of fun to look back at the 3 most memorable Jazz-Rockets moments in the playoff format. 2 of the best games in Carlos Boozer's career came in the 2007 NBA playoffs, the first-round series against, yes, Houston. After 41 points in a Game 2 road win, he followed it up with 35 points and 14 rebounds, leading the Jazz to a stunning upset of the Rockets in game number 7.
Hey, we got to get this on camera.
A moment so good it caused Frank Layden to kiss Adrian Dantley. The Whopper Billy Paultz came in for the injured Mark Eaton, took a slap from Hakeem Olajuwon. The momentum swung to the Jazz, and they won Game 5 and the series on the road back in 1985. Frank.
Half court. Stockton, open 3. John Stockton sends the Utah Jazz to the NBA Finals.
Still gives me chills. Easily the best moment for the Jazz in this Utah-Houston playoff history, and no-brainer. Watching it never gets old. John Stockton finally sending the Jazz to the NBA Finals with an iconic buzzer beater in the 1997 Western Conference Finals. Real Salt Lake picked up a 2-1 victory over Orlando yesterday. They've been few and far between. Earlier this week, soccer legend and Fox Sports color commentator Alexi Lalas met up with KSL Sports' Tom Hackett and talked about how impressed he is with Real Salt Lake and the franchise.
So I've been coming to Salt Lake for many, many years, and I've watched this team grow, I've watched this city grow, I've watched this culture grow. And today was the first time that I toured the latest version. And it's not just about a building. It is about literally changing the face of soccer in this area. And whether it's the academy, whether it's the high school involved with the academy, whether it's the incredible training facility that they have. I've been a lot of places and I've been around the world. This isn't just living up to others, this is surpassing others. There are teams all over the world that would kill or die to have the facilities Deloitte has paid for here. But more so, the understanding that soccer can be transcendent. Soccer can inhabit the way cultures evolve. And that soccer, while we talk about great players and winning games and stuff like that, soccer is so much more than that. Soccer is giving communities and cultures the ability to be in safe environments, the ability to get educated, the ability for physical fitness, the ability for communities to come together and celebrate. All of those different things are happening here, and happening to an extent and at a level that, I'll be quite honest, doesn't exist in most other places, and I did not expect. So I was completely blown away by what I saw here, and it certainly warms the cockles of my red-hearted heart to see something like that happen. And if you are in this area and in this market, you are incredibly fortunate to have this, and it's only going to get bigger.
He could just step in and clean up. He's on.
Plot in, prepared, the header, and in!
I think that a player like him absolutely will have a say, not just in the Gold Cup, but going forward. And we saw a Corey Bear, we saw a Nick Lima. These types of players that, when they first came to the national team, if you're not following the individual MLS team that they play for, if you're not knee-deep in it like we are, you would say, who is this guy? I've never even heard of him and stuff like that. I love that. I love that because I think that there is a wealth of talent out there that, because of timing or location or just whatever, it is not necessarily being accessed. And I think Greg Berhalter benefited from his time in Major League Soccer. And that's not to say that every player should be from Major League Soccer. And it's also not to say that there isn't better quality at times elsewhere in the world. It's up to Greg Berhalter to see what that proper mix will be. But I do believe that regardless of how popular you are, how much money you're making, what league you're playing in, Greg Berhalter is going to pick the best 11 players. And at times, he's going to have some courage to do that, because it probably takes take some criticism at times, and whether it's picking a Corey Baird over maybe a more established player in name or popularity or money or league or anybody else out there.
And down goes our photog. Watch out! More in great clips next.
Great clips of the week.
A rivalry in the ring. Watch out. Whoa! As Brian Kill and Boo Anderson box it up for BYU in Utah, and our photographer gets taken out. That's calling getting in on the action. Hope everyone's okay. And thankfully we know everyone's okay. Rudy Gobert showing off his offensive prowess earlier this week. Maybe in game 2 he can run the point. Anybody have a problem with that?
Yeah, but not the same. Is that Kyle Korver? Timeout. No, it's not Kyle Korver. Kyle Korver's not playing tonight.
Apparently, Bill Walton thinks Grayson Allen is Kyle Korver. Oh, Bill. He continues to say whatever he wants when he does basketball broadcasts. We move on. Can't do this. 76ers really weren't in this game. Texting on the bench. Come on. I mean, at least go to the locker room and do that. Show me something else, please. Tony Finau. Now, this is great. Came prepared at the Masters this year. Remember what he did on this hole in the par 3 challenge? He dislocated his ankle. Well, he had a custom shoe from Nike to prevent a high ankle sprain in this year's par 3 contest after that debacle last year. And, of course, it was Masters green. Well done, Tony. He finished tied for 5th. And the disaster that almost was Tiger Woods. Oh, no. The security guard clips Tiger. I'm just glad Woods won because we're talking infamy of like Bartman and the Chicago Cubs if he gets hurt right there. And in honor of the Masters, check out the swing on this kid. Dane Whitaker sent this in of his 2-year-old son. Maybe we'll see him on the tour one day. Fantastic stuff. We'll see you next week on SportsBeat Sunday.